Hello, hello, hello. This is Irina Strunina, and this is our weekly podcast, Diabetically Speaking with Smart Move 360. This is when we are meeting every week and talking about life with diabetes and everything that we can learn about this adventure. And every week, I invite experts in healthcare to help me to discuss different topics about diabetes and life with it. And sometimes we invite doctors, sometimes this could be health workers, social workers, personal coaches. Today we have a very special guest. We have a registered dietitian. This is Aimee. And Aimee, please tell us about yourself a little bit, your story, and who you are, and all this. It's very important for our listeners to know.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Aimee Rossini. I have a doctorate in physical therapy. I've been a PT for 12 years. I am now also a certified health coach, as well as a certified personal trainer and certified nutritionist. So I've got a lot of background in working with people. I've been doing home health specifically for the last 8 years. So I've been working with people in their homes, right in the thick of it, dealing with all kinds of different chronic diseases, including diabetes, for quite a long time now. And so, really seeing firsthand the struggles that they go through on a daily basis.
Absolutely. What made you interested in pursuing this career, this health,
The health
helping people
coaching.
with health? Yes.
Yeah, so it really has kind of been a progressive change in what I've just seen personally throughout my career as a PT. And it probably has always really been there, but the last few years has just been um, a lot more evident and with the amount of information that people get, either coming out of the hospital or just from their doctor's offices. And they're really like just walking around completely oblivious to what's going on. And, I work with so many different people of all kinds of different diagnoses. So, diabetes, heart disease, orthopedics, all kinds of different stuff. And, like, the one thing that I get asked pretty regularly from different patients with different diagnoses, with different physicians, "Why don't they tell you anything?" And so that's really honestly why I'm here. I sat in the living room of a lady with Parkinson's a couple of years ago who stops me like 10 minutes into our conversation, and she's like, "What is Parkinson's?" She'd been diagnosed 2 years before this. She didn't even know what she was dealing with. And so I ended up sitting there and explaining to her, "What is Parkinson's? What part of the brain does it affect? And why are you seeing the symptoms that you see?" And she was just like blown away. She's like, "Nobody has ever explained anything medical like that to me ever." And so she was just really very thankful. And that really kind of started the ball rolling on with what I do now. As a health coach, I specifically focus on people with chronic diseases. So they actually get this information. So often I hear stories from, people who just got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, for example, and their doctor walks in the room, hands them a prescription for metformin and says, "You have type 2 diabetes. You should probably focus on your diet and exercise a little bit. Bye." And
Exactly.
that's all they get, and they're just like whirlwind and glassed over and like, "What just happened?" And they got nothing, they don't have any of that other education. So, that is really why I do what I do, just to make sure that people get the answers that they need so that they know what to do and how to do it.
Perfect, perfect. This is actually one of the reasons why we started our Facebook group, Diabetes 101 for Beginners, to help people to learn about this, because this is something that so many people experience in the same way as you just described. And, some people get it in the doctor's office, but so many people actually don't get it this way. They get a text message or email or the call from the pharmacy, and they people when they don't even face the doctor at this moment of discovering this diagnosis, they were like, "Are you sure you're looking at my records?
Right,
Is
exactly.
it correct? I never been diagnosed with it. I never was suggested that I am at risk of getting it. Nobody in my family has it."
What are you
And
talking about, right?
exactly. And what pharmacists can say? They say, "Well, I have no idea. I have your prescriptions. Check with your doctor." And
Mhm.
then you call the doctor, and people say, "Yeah, that's what you have. Let's get so good. So glad you called. Let's schedule your follow-up appointment in 3 months." What do I
3
do for
months,
those three
right?
months?
What
Yes.
am I
What
supposed
do
to
I
do for
do
the
for
next 3 months?
exactly, exactly. So
Yep,
this is something that we unfortunately are facing so often, and I am so glad that Aimee, you actually agreed to work with us and help us to learn more about what can we do, how we can change things in our life or maybe lifestyle. What do we need to pay attention to when we are diagnosed with that? Because as you just told us, not that many people are lucky, fortunate enough to get clear instructions. Because
right.
there are doctors' offices and diabetes educational classes, and some people are fortunate enough to get referrals for dietitians or nutritionists and get guidance. But unfortunately, this is a small percentage of lucky
Unfortunately.
people. Yeah, so here we are, here, our Diabetes 101 for beginners and all our experts to help our members to learn more and to discover their own path to healthier way to how they can overcome this challenge, hopefully put it in bay or control it very well, because we know controlled diabetes is one thing. Uncontrolled diabetes, this is what causing all the challenges. So
Right.
for you worked with people already for years, and you, as you just said, explained a lot of people what is happening with them. What would you say the like for someone you met the first time, they just got a call from doctor's office saying that they have diabetes, and they come to you like to speak with the therapist saying, crying tears and saying, "I have no idea where to start. I have no idea what to do." What will you tell those people?
So, 2 things I would say. First is, really, obviously, we have to dial in on your nutrition because that's what's affecting your blood sugar, and so nutrition is super, super important. Specifically focusing on protein and fiber. If you're gonna
Mhm,
have carbs, which everybody needs carbs, even if you are diabetic, you still need carbs, your brain requires that. Um, even with the carbs, focus on high fiber stuff,
mhm,
okay?
mhm,
And then a lot of protein. It's going to
mhm,
be the one thing that those two things together really are going to be what help keep cravings down and really get your body what it needs to function to help to reduce some of those cravings. The second thing is we've got to control inflammation. That's really where a lot of the root cause with diabetes comes in, is that either you've got inflammation at the cellular level or in the pancreas, somewhere in the cellular level there, out in the body tissues, inflammation, or specifically the pancreas. So, two ways: the inflammation at the cell, it's involved in keeping the glucose from being able to get into the cell, or in the pancreas, it's keeping those cells from being able to effectively produce insulin so that there's
mhm.
enough available. So, really, that inflammation is huge factor for people.
Okay, so they need to do all this. Where to start? There's, first of all, so much information to learn. And while they're learning, they do not that much because they still don't know.
Mhm.
What would you recommend the first thing to first change, I guess, to make? Because the lifestyle, what people had, brought them to this. What first change they could do?
Well, with so many people being just like, kind of blindsided sometimes with this, they don't have any idea that they had a diagnosis or were at risk for it. A lot of them end up finding out because they go into, let's say, a diabetic ketoacidosis and end up in the hospital, and they're like, "Well, your blood sugar is 600, and you have diabetes," and that's how
Mm-hmm.
they find out, right? And so for so many people, the first and foremost thing that I would say, if you are a diabetic or even pre-diabetic, is
Yes.
get some support. You've got to have somebody in your corner that is willing to take the time to help you understand what you're actually dealing with. And once you are at that point, and somebody who can do it in a way that you actually understand what they're saying, not with all this medical jargon, right? And fortunately, I have been gifted with that ability to explain things in a way that, everybody can relate to, not just
Mm-hmm.
all this, medical jargon kind of stuff. Um, but fortunately, I understand the medical jargon as, having been a physical therapist for 12 years, I know what all those terms mean, but
So
then
you
can explain it
serve as a
in a way.
translator.
Right, exactly. And having that support is huge for people. They don't feel like they're just wandering around aimlessly in the dark anymore.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, definitely. I'm always saying that diabetes is a team sport, and
Yes.
you need as big a team as you can. I mean, look at we just watching those Olympic Games. Every athlete, as soon as they learn that they won a medal, doesn't matter what kind of medal is it, or they run to their team, their
Yes.
coaches, their relatives, their whoever else in their team. So definitely need a team. And
That's their support system. Support is huge. And it's hard for a lot of people that, maybe nobody else, like you said, nobody else in your family has diabetes. This isn't a thing that I've ever dealt with before. And for some people, even at home, their family doesn't want to change, their lifestyle, but now as a diabetic, you're being forced to. And so sometimes you have to go seek that support elsewhere.
yes, definitely. Okay, you said that you see your clients, you doing the physical therapy, or you were doing physical therapy, and you've seen a lot of people who were recently diagnosed. Why recently diagnosed with diabetes coming to physical therapy?
Typically, those people are going to be people who have been in the hospital for a different reason, a lot of them, and it's more of just like the complications. So, uh, most of the time, if you are, let's say you're in the hospital with a brand new diagnosis of diabetes, ketoacidosis, for example, is how you find out. And you've been in the hospital for a week. Most of the time, you're not seeing anybody PT wise. Maybe you're getting up to go to the bathroom, but the rest of the week, you're pretty much laying in the bed, right? So it takes 3 days of inactivity to start losing muscle mass.
Hmm.
And so, and you're already losing strength before that. So most of the people, after they've been in the hospital for a week, they are a lot weaker and having a lot harder time getting around their house, doing all their stuff. And so that's where PT ends up coming in. Nursing, of course, comes in and they're doing a lot of the diabetic education and new med management type of stuff. Physical therapy's coming in for more of the physical activity sort of stuff, making sure that they can get back to functioning in their home and get in and out of their home. And occupational therapy comes in as well to help with ADL type of stuff. But for me, with what I do now, it is all fully virtual. And so it's a lot more of that education component and being that support system. I do still work as a PT, PRN on the side as well, but my main focus at this point is that health
Yeah.
coaching.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, it actually makes sense because muscles are the part of our bodies that carries us around, right? It needs
That's right.
energy, and if we do not have this proper energy distribution in our bodies, our muscles are getting weaker. But this is another thing, is that when muscles are working, they use that energy, that immediate sugar that we have in our blood, in our muscles. And that's how working on building up the muscles helps us to reduce the blood sugar levels, right?
That's
There's
right.
such a connection everywhere. Our body is such a
Yes.
unique system that is capable of healing itself if we
Right.
give it the proper, guidance and usage, right?
That's exactly right. Well, and that's so many times what you see is, you go to a cardiologist and all they're focused on is just your heart, or you go to your endocrinologist and all they're focused on is just the diabetes, just the hormone portion of things. Or your nephrologist, they just care about your kidneys. They each look at the body and each of their individual parts and pieces, but in reality, it's all like you said, it's one system that all have moving parts, but every part affects every other part. And so if you aren't looking at your body as a whole thing and addressing it from multiple angles, then you really do yourself a disservice by not doing that.
Yes, definitely. This is the reason why I called my company. You see, it's right here, Smart Move 360, because to make a change, we do need to make some sort of a move, right? Uh, Physical or mental or emotional, but that has to be changed, right? And
Yes.
diabetes is such a diagnosis that affects everything, not
Yep.
only how many calories and carbs you're getting into your body. Not only do you drink water or you drink the Coke, but also how do you behave with others? Are you ashamed and depressed, or you are so anxious that you're afraid of talking? Are you withdrawing yourself from the social life, or you are being really, open and discussing it with people? You may become very irritable. You may become very easy um, frustrated and upset and broke into tears. So
Yep.
you perform differently at work. You get tired quicker. You need to go to the bathroom real fast, very often. It's all affects our life all around. And
That's right.
people who you could tolerate in the past becoming intolerable, that you cannot even control that. So many things, and definitely when we have someone who is helping you to kind of like step back from immediate problem and look at the bigger picture and
Right.
help you to manage that bigger picture is a great thing. Well, Aimee, I know that you have a program. You have a program that is helping. Can you tell us about this? Because I know that a lot of people who have diabetes, they don't necessarily have to be our members. They are looking for some guidance, and doctors are so busy and booked that sometimes they have to wait several months until they get to the appointment. So, what is in your program that people can be benefiting with from?
Sure. Yeah. So I work with people one on one so that it gives you that privacy to be able to have, that direct support that's individualized, personalized support based on your specific situation without having to, you know, e- expand out in front of anybody else that you don't want to be in front of. Right. So it gives you that privacy being one on one. I walk people through nutrition. I walk people through exercise, really just like the basics of how exercise affects the body. And then also separately, to going into more of like the resistance and strength training type of stuff later on in the program. I talk about medication management. I talk about how the mind and the body are connected and really how your mental health affects your physical health. And also how a new diagnosis is going to end up resulting in changes in your mental health too. For example, a lot of people that get diagnosed with a new chronic disease like diabetes end up with depression and anxiety, like you were talking about, how they're like, they think their life is over and they're never going to be able to enjoy anything again, right? And that does definitely not the case, and it doesn't have to be.
Yes.
Um, but, we talk about things, sleep and stress management, for example, that really affects the whole person.
So
And it's
important.
not just about the diagnosis, it's really about
Life.
viewing you as a whole person, just like every part of your body is connected. I mean, it's just one teeny tiny part of your life. And making sure that all of that is addressed is very
Yes.
important.
That's a great approach. I agree. You know, this 360 approach has to be implemented, and sometimes we are getting so um, focused on one topic that we are forgetting about the other.
Right.
And but it's impossible to get better if you're focusing. It's like, the stool has four legs. And if you are paying attention to just one leg and the other ones are getting wobbly, this tool is not stable. So you have to really tighten up all the screws and everything on all four legs and make sure that the pads under the legs are the same height and the same hardness. So
That's right.
that is what giving you stability. And that's what we also need to remember and work on it. I believe this is the way how to do that.
That's right.
All right. Okay. Aimee, I think first of all, I am glad that you joined me today here.
Yes. Thank you
We
for
are
having me.
talking about diabetes and life with diabetes every week. And in our Facebook group, this Diabetes 101 for Beginners, every day we have more people joining us there. They're sharing their challenges. They're sharing maybe not their own challenges, but their family members who got diagnosed and they want to help them and they need to know how to help them. So that's why we are inviting all the time the people who are in the position of helping in one way or another, maybe as a healthcare professional, or maybe as a social worker, or maybe as a, I don't know, any other realm, what could be like retail seller. I people need to remember about the food care and what kind of socks and shoes could be helpful. So
Sure.
all that, I am inviting everybody to connect with us and help us to create this great team that will be helpful and useful for people who are in our Facebook group. And I am so glad that Aimee, you joined our efforts, our team. So we'll be, everyone, please make sure that you are following her because we will see Aimee more often here in the group. She will be actually giving us some presentations explaining certain parts. It's such a complex approach, so we are not expecting Aimee to teach us all in one 40 minutes presentation, but we could break it down into parts, and by just watching it and starting implementing the knowledge one by one will be great. So we have about 5 minutes to wrap up before our time. So please tell us what is coming up, what is happening, and then I'll give my announcements and we will be done for the day.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to be coming into the group. We're going to be doing a workshop on finding the right fit. So, exercise obviously is a PT I'm very focused on. And so, it is really very important, not just for diabetes, but as a whole person to be working your body so that you can remain independent and help your body function better because exercise is not just about the muscles, it's about how everything else functions together as a whole system. So, we're going to be doing a finding the right fit workshop with some tailored exercises for chronic diseases coming up soon.
Perfect, perfect. So I will do right now a quick announcement of just a reminder for everyone in the group because I know that sometimes we get carried away and forget that there are some activities in our Facebook group happening. So I wanted to remind everyone that we have the Telenurse Tuesdays. Every Tuesday we have nurses coming to, let me close my screen so I could see it more clearly. So every Tuesday you could type under this announcement your questions, and our nurses will be answering you those questions. On where is my support group meeting? Oh, every other Wednesday, we have our support group meetings in our Facebook group. It's actually in a separate Zoom connection, so you could come and meet with healthcare professionals and ask your private questions and get the answers right away instead of waiting for several weeks to meet with that professional. On Thursday, of course, we have our Diabetically Speaking with Smart Move 360. And this is something that we are always looking, inviting experts, reach out, and we will be featuring you in our podcast. And on Fridays, we have our own Trevor Brown with his Fitness Fridays, when he shares different ideas that we can implement in order to help our bodies to stay strong. So that wraps up our announcement session. And I think we do need to close for right now. So everybody remember, next week, Aimee will conduct that masterclass. The announcements will be in our featured post. Please follow the admin's announcements. We are always letting you know what else is coming up. Aimee, thank you very much for coming today and making this recording, answering the questions. I am glad that we were able to do that. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your smile.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
And we will see you next week. All right. Bye-bye.